months, one of the conservative members of the court has stated that federal cannabis laws are somewhat antiquated. He indicated his support for cutting back federal laws to criminalize pot. You might think it's good news since Thomas is one of the most conservative. Unfortunately, for the moment, his zeal to rethink how his country criminalizes cannabis has so far no other supporters on the court that we know of. It involved a medical dispensary in Colorado that even though it was operating completely legally within the state of Colorado, it could not take advantage of federal tax rates for businesses. We'll be talking more about that when we talk about the SAFE Act in front of Congress. And Mexico, the nation of Mexico, their Supreme Court struck down laws that ban use of recreational marijuana in our neighbor to the south. It has been being tossed around in their government for a couple of years now. In an 8-3 decision on yesterday, the court ruled that sections of the country's general health law that prohibit person's consumption of home cultivation of marijuana are unconstitutional. And also out of Mexico, a very interesting thing that the Mexican president is considering putting marijuana on the ballot following the Supreme Court ruling, since their Congress can't get anything done either. Seems to be a rash of that going on. Also, one failure, Rhode Island, the Senate, that is a win, Rhode Island Senate approves legalizing marijuana for adults. The loss came from the state of Delaware, that they're not going to get anything done on cannabis this year.
All right, so maybe it's a race to the end. Us in Delaware.
Okay.
Hopefully, we don't win that one.
Well, Delaware is the home state of President Joseph Biden, so.
They might scooch things through quicker.
And I don't know. We don't know what Biden's going to do on that. Kamala Harris has been an ally of ours.
She was the first person that drafted the MORAC, wasn't she?
She authored it, and she also supported several of the other measures, some that Cory Booker had been filing. And she favors, she co-authored and co-sponsored, I should say, the SAFE Act. Well, we get on into those.
Sounds good. So, the reason they came up with the SAFE Act and the MORAC, they did have some findings. Stuff we already knew, but they wanted to put into writing so that it made it look like they had a reason for these. They have finally figured out that the people that are most harmed by the war on drugs were the least amount of people to be benefited of what's going on. They found 47 states have reformed laws pertaining to cannabis. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have legalization for medical or personal. What is the number right now?
Well, right now we've got 38 states that are legal for either medical or recreational.
Okay.
Now it's, all but 3 states have done something. We here in Indiana have industrial hemp and we have CBD. That's just the very bottom of the spectrum. There are several different definitions of decriminalization. And there's legalization, there's something called depenalization. And, it's the semantic waters have been muddied by all this. So it's, when you talk about decriminalization, you almost have to define it at the moment.
Gotcha. So that's probably where they came up with their 47 states. Mm-hmm. They also found out that legal cannabis revenue in 2017 was $9.5 billion. They're looking at it to be $23 billion by 2022. Just think if those other states could make it all legal, that would have to be upwards of 24, maybe 25 billion, if we could get a few more states.
And how much of that money here in Indiana is going to Illinois and Michigan? We're working on finding that out to get as accurate a number as possible. Right now, we're estimating at least $500 million to each state in Indiana.
I believe it. They found that the ACLU cost the ACLU found out that marijuana enforcement costs taxpayers $3.6 billion a year, from anywhere from arrests, court costs, housing prisoners, et cetera. That's a lot of money. So you turn that around with full legalization, we could be saving some money. Their findings also found black men's sentences are over 13% longer than their white counterparts. Latinos are 6.5 times more likely to receive federal sentences than their counterparts. Let that sink in.
If you want a good resource on racial disparity in cannabis laws, Michelle Alexander's new Jim Crow book is an excellent resource on
That would be good, because actually the SAFE Act and the MORE Act do address that these racial discriminations are going on and how they, in their part, are going to try to make it better. They also have acknowledged the cost of doing having a legal cannabis business. Licenses can be up to $700,000. So not everybody has a rich Aunt Betty that's going to just loan me that kind of money. So,
Well, I've noticed that in a lot of the legislation that's been written, both on the state level and on the federal level, that equity is playing a part in that. Equity being that, those who have suffered from prohibition should be allowed, at least allowed to, participate in legal.
right,
Yeah.
right. Which hopefully they do address that and get that handled, because I know even transportation from a grow to a dispensary, $50,000 in Michigan just to apply for that license. That doesn't guarantee you get one. It's a non-refundable application fee. So these fees can just be ridiculous.
Then it leads a lot to political corruption when you've got money like that involved.
Definitely, definitely. So first, we're going to cover the SAFE Act of 2021, HR 1996. It was co-sponsored by 154 Democrats and 26 Republicans. It passed the House on 4/19/21. That is the day before many of us were standing in the snowstorm here in Indiana. Just my signs up in Fort Wayne were covered in snow. We were trying to wipe them off on the courthouse, and whew, that was a fun day. But anyway, 419, yeas were 321, nays 101. So it did pass the House. Basically what it says, the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act of 2021. The purpose is to increase public safety by ensuring access to financial service to cannabis-related legitimate business and service providers and reduce the amount of cash at such businesses. And for here on, for the rest of the podcast, I'm just going to say cannabis businesses. It's that wording through the whole thing, but we're going to try to take it easy on that.
Legalese is there for a reason. Because some jackass will come along and say, oh, look at this word, it's out there. I can make a whole lot.
I think they get paid by the word sometimes.
It seems like it, doesn't
Yes. So that's basically what the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act says. Neil, what do you want to sum it up?
it? Well, the way business is being conducted now, it is not legal on the federal level. It is legal on the state level. They have no way of, they can't do banking. They've got all this cash around, because it's an entirely cash business. Now, some dispensaries in Colorado, where they have different banking laws that allow for state banks, they are starting to be able to use some credit cards, but there's still a morass of regulations that have to be followed. It's difficult sometimes because if it's not handled properly, it could be construed to be federal narcotics trafficking.
Okay.
Or trafficking in money obtained by sales of, quote, narcotics, unquote.
So that's why they made the SAFE Act. And some of the points of the SAFE Act, the banks can't still be FDIC insured, because that was a big thing that they were worried about. Oh, we don't have insurance, we have another run of 1930, whatever it was, and everybody loses their money, so that won't be a problem. Banks cannot be penalized for doing business with cannabis-related businesses. They must be treated the same as any other business and not be discriminated against. One thing that was interesting is they cannot take adverse action on a loan made to a cannabis-related legitimate business or service provided. Their employees, because their employees didn't have a paycheck because all they had was cash, so you throw in too much cash and the banks start raising their eyes. And they can't take adverse action on an owner or operator of real estate or equipment leased to cannabis businesses. And I thought maybe like if you rent a dispensary, or if maybe the landlord can't be, if maybe the money that's paid to the landlord, can he put it in the bank? Is that what they're addressing? I'm not
I
really
think
sure.
that's what they're getting at there.
Okay.
It's, right now, yeah, it's entirely cash. It causes all these problems. IRS does not like you to pay large tax payments with cash. They want electronic transfers. You can't put this money into the electronic system because of these laws. It's also a major security problem. We were talking before airtime that about the show Disjointed, where the DEA came in on Kathy Bates' dispensary and, they hit her safe, of course, was just sitting there. She also had money in the wall, I believe it was, and they ripped her walls apart to get the rest of the money. And it was a basic shakedown. It had nothing to do with paying taxes or anything. DEA just came in, shook her down, took the money.
And I think people are always like, oh, but it's cash. It's nice to carry cash around. And it is if you're going to the grocery store or you're getting gas, that kind of thing. It's nice to have cash in your pocket, but if you try to buy a vehicle, a house, anything over $9,999, you have to fill out a tax form. And they want to know where that cash came from. You can't say I own a dispensary. You can't say I'm a healthcare provider providing medicine to somebody and I'm only allowed to take cash, because then you're having a federal crime. So cash is good, cash is bad, but, and again with the security portion, do you really want to have all these tens of thousands of dollars of cash just sitting around in your house, your business, et cetera?
A lot of dispensaries have been robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been in dispensaries in California, Colorado, Michigan. They all have an ATM machine right there. So you have an ATM
Yeah.
machine that people, you're not walking out of there for under $150, pretty much. So you figure how many patients they have a day coming in and out of there. It's a lot of money in there, a lot of cash.
And they, that's, a burden on business all the way around.
Yeah.
The SAFE Act is essential that it pass just for the safety of the cannabis workers.
And I think the government also saw how much they were losing out on taxes, because cash is really a hard way to prove how much you got, how much you didn't get, and things can be shifted, but when there's a paper trail, they'll be paying all the taxes.
Yeah, it's, it's important that equity is involved.
Definitely.
And minority businesses have an equal shot at the racial minorities in this country have been, bearing the brunt of prohibition.
And that's why I'm glad it's addressed in both of these, because I read somewhere only 4% of cannabis-owned businesses are owned by minorities. And what did we read in their findings? That over 13%, black men will do 13% more time than anyone else. So, I'm glad that they're addressing that and that they're gonna try to balance out that fairness. Something else the SAFE Act does, it protects ancillary businesses. So the proceeds cannot be considered unlawful, just based on it being a cannabis-related business. So again, it's protected under federal law. So it's protected for supplying a financial service or investing income derived from a financial service. So I think this also goes back to, a 401k, any type of investment you want to make. You have a full cash-related business, you can't just be socking it into a mutual fund or a 401k. And if you get robbed, there goes your whole retirement, there goes everything. Your depository institutions cannot be subject to forfeiture due to doing business with the cannabis industry. So even wherever you deposit, they cannot be discriminated against either. Now, on the bad side, it doesn't force financial institutions to do business with cannabis-related businesses. They're allowed to, but they don't have to. So I don't know, are banks gonna be on board? What do you think?
I would think that if they could see where they make some money, that they would go along with it. We know there's a lot of money involved with cannabis. We know that, bankers they like money, and like lots of money. And I could see that they would, there will be those, that cannabis legalization, cannabis normalization, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen with the signing of federal legislation. It's going to take a while to get all the bugs worked out of it. So it's, but this is an important first step.
And you were telling me about back in, law back in the 50s, was it? That sometimes they throw a wrench in the works just because it's legal? Yes. What was that?
Well, anything, the Single Nation Treaty, which was designed and implemented and carried out with the United Nations by our old buddy Harry Anslinger, where he developed the scheduling of, quote, narcotics, unquote. This was an international treaty between 73 different signatory nations that all nations would act as a single nation when dealing with, quote, narcotics, unquote, which includes cannabis, and that no one would legalize anything that was on the schedule. Well, so far, Portugal has backed out. They were the original signatory of the treaty. They backed out of it, which severely weakened the treaty when you have people start to back out. Mexico obviously is not paying any attention to it. It could be a blind ointment in the United States. I have no information or anything that supports this. Just a thought from a learned observer.
Now, who can change that act? Do they all have to come
That would
together?
have to be done on an international level through the United Nations.
Okay.
And it kind of rubs me the wrong way that, the rest of the world will tell me what I can smoke and what I can't.
Especially when our own government's trying to tell us we can't.
Yeah. There are some escape routes on that. I could see Eric Holcomb saying, well, we legalized on federal level, but we have international treaties that we have to keep. Well, the United States government's been pretty lousy about keeping their word in treaties over the history of this nation. 168 treaties were signed with the various Native American tribes and nations. They've only enforced part of one. That was the 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie. So our word hasn't been real good on treaties, and this is definitely one that the rest of the world doesn't have any right to tell us what we can or cannot inject.
But you're right, I can see Holcomb just hanging on to the coattails.
I can see him.
Wait, we
Oh,
won't
you
have
did
it
that, but
again.
now we get in there.
Keep the devils, let us out. Yeah,
Let's
so,
not get started.
so again, it does not force financial institutions to do business with cannabis, it just allows them to, but like Engel said, there's money to be made, they're gonna do it. So,
And we're gonna have to see how everybody reacts to,
Okay.
Are the banks saying, well, hey, we can, why not? We're gonna make some money off of this. And that, it may not be a problem. Then again, we may have to force the banks to say, well, hey, you're causing your failure to, help this business along is costing money and it's causing security problems. People are being robbed and shot and killed and all that. Okay, let's make it you've got to do business like anybody else. That would also kind of fall in under I'm no lawyer, but to me, it would seem to fall under the equal application of the law.
Right, right. And I know all the dispensaries I've been to seem pretty up and up, very business, you know, not just shoving it in their pockets and throwing it out the back door, a lot of.
I've only been in a couple of dispensaries, one in Effingham, Illinois, that, you know, I mean, you walk in the door, the first thing you got to do is show your ID.
Oh, yeah.
You walk about 20 more feet, you'll show your ID again.
And there's locked doors here, or here, a
Yeah.
couple of them, I went to 2 or 3 different doors, security checks, what have
It
you.
was very professional, it was very, you know, they had every T crossed and I dotted,
Definitely.
you know, which, that's a good way to do business.
Right. So I don't see why they wouldn't, but they don't have to. Another thing that was included in the SAFE Act, the GAO did a study on diversity and inclusion, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. But it'll remove the barriers to the marketplace entry, including licensing and access to finances for potential and existing minorities and women-owned businesses. So back to what we talked about, that only 4%.
Equity.
Yeah, equity, only 4% are minority-owned businesses. This will help them. And back to who was harmed the most, reaps the least. Hopefully this will change that as well and get them the funds, the education, whatever they need to get their little piece of the American dream. Definitely. The last thing that I noted on the SAFE Act was the Comptroller General does have to issue a report on a regular basis to Congress containing its findings, recommendations to remove more barriers to the marketplace. So for the minorities and the women. So it's not like they're just writing it in there and saying, oh, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They do have to report. They do need to make sure that those numbers are going up and that they're evening out and everybody has a fair share.
That's just common sense business practice.
You'd think. You'd think.
Common sense is sometimes lacking in government and business.
Not so common, is it? That kind of wraps up the SAFE Act. Was there anything else you wanted to add about it?
That pretty much covers it.
Now, did you see anything about credit unions? That just popped in my head. I didn't
You know, I have.
see, I read through the bill and I didn't see credit unions. I wonder if that would fall under the other institutions. I know they're insured a little different, but it's still federally, so.
Yeah, credit. I couldn't see if they would exclude credit unions.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
then again, they've surprised me before.
that's right. That's so true. So we're gonna move right on to the MORE Act, which is HR 3884, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act of 2020. Is actually introduced in July 23rd of 19. 120 co-sponsors.
Yeah, this is not what I hear about.
It, on 12/4 of 20, the House voted to approve it. On 12/7 of 20, it's received into the Senate and read twice with 2 roll calls. I'm gonna say one more thing and then I'm gonna have Neil clear this up because I had no idea what was going on when I read this. So a little after noon, they voted, yeas were 174, nays were 218. And then at 1:10 p.m., yeas were 228, nays were 164.
Well,
Was there a group in the bathroom? What was going on? What happened?
there is usually a certain length of time that they can, they have to do a vote
Okay.
on that, and it, you know, I'm sure they have, you know, some people thought about it, or some skin got pressed somewhere along the line.
This is where you're supposed to say yes.
And, yeah,
Okay, so that's pretty common when they do that kind of thing? Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's been done.
Okay, so the right people were nudging. So, a basic overview of the MORE Act, it decriminalizes marijuana. Now, Neil went in, touched on a little bit earlier about decriminalization and how it can actually mean different things. What they are defining it as is specifically removes it from the list of scheduled substances under the Controlled Substances Act and eliminates criminal penalties for an individual who manufactures, distributes, or possesses marijuana. Now, we were talking earlier, that isn't technically decriminalization.
Actually, that's not the best definition of decriminalization. Decriminalization, excuse me, has had several meanings attached to it. Some of them not real accurate. A lot of, I've noticed a lot of Indiana politicians use decriminalize too, that it doesn't, it remains illegal, but you don't go to jail for it, which is not a real good definition of decriminalization. What the MORE Act does is remove cannabis from the schedule of controlled substances.
Which includes what, opioids?
Schedule 1, which is cannabis, which never should have been put on schedule to begin with, especially on Schedule 1, where it shares a room with heroin, LSD, and other things that, chemical drugs that we use. Although LSD shouldn't have been there either.
That's another
Completely,
episode.
entirely, completely different argument. But with cannabis off of the schedule, it's not necessarily legal, but it is not illegal.
Okay.
Because the law states, CSA 70, Controlled Substances Act of 1970, states clearly that it's not on the schedule, it's not on the law.
Okay, so this wouldn't be moved somewhere, it would just be removed completely?
Removed from the schedule altogether.
Okay, so that's what the MORE Act is saying, and that's how they're defining decriminalization.
Removes all criminal penalties.
Okay.
Any criminalization.
Okay, so basically what the MORE Act says, the main points of that, it replaces statutory reference to marijuana with cannabis, so that's kind of the more PC way to say things now. Requires the Bureau of Labor Statistics to regularly publish demographic data on cannabis business owners and employers, as well as the employees. So this is one of those cross-reference between the two when you think about making sure that minorities, women are owners, employees.
It would be, and I've seen memes and posters with the sentiment that, it would be really distasteful, really un-American to have some people sitting in jail for, on a charge that someone else is making a boatload of money. I understand that, So it has, expungement has to be, and termination of current sentences for cannabis. It has to be in it, it's got to wipe the slate clean.
That makes sense. And to be held responsible, that things are happening the way they're supposed to. Now, the MORE Act does also establish a trust fund to support various programs and services for the individuals and businesses in communities impacted by the war on drugs. So again, they are addressing that there are certain communities that have just been ravaged by the dumbest laws. So they are, and so everybody's wondering, you were talking about the tax in Illinois last week and how much you paid for a pre-roll. It's pretty high, of course, with the MORE Act. That means they can now tax this. And right now, they're looking at a 5% tax on cannabis. That's what's going to go into that trust fund to help minorities, the women, the communities impacted by the war on drugs. So that's a good thing. Do we see that tax going crazy?
When it comes to money and government officials, I don't make any bets.
Because how many times have they raised taxes on tobacco, alcohol, gas?
Now, most of that's done on the state level.
Okay.
Illinois went overboard on taxes. They know they've got a problem with that. But they're gonna milk that cash cow for all sorts of things.
Now, do they have, and you may not know this, I don't know, just getting the top of my head, do they have a certain fund that some of that goes to?
Oh, yeah.
For like things like this, my
Well,
party,
I'd have to look at Illinois law on that specific.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't know whether they've got a special fund. I know that, like most states, proceeds are supposed to go to the education system.
Okay.
Of course, like happened in Indiana with the lottery,
Oh, see, all that,
went everywhere but education. So, you know, it's, we don't want to tax cannabis to the point that it's cheaper to get it on the black market.
Right.
You know, one of the several valid points of legalization is that you can go into a store, you don't have to deal with shady characters, you can buy what you get what you pay for. You will get what you want, it will be clean, it will be organic, it will be healthy, and you can take it home without the fear of, five army kicking the door in. If you keep the black market going, you're dealing with shady characters, you may or may not get what you need to get.
You may or may not get robbed.
Yes.
You don't know about potency either.
Right.
That's a big thing on the medical. You know, a lot of people that take cannabis strictly for medical, they need their doses exactly as they need it. If you get something on the black market, it's like, well, I don't know, throw it together, here you go.
You go out, even if you have a regular dealer who tries to do it right, and, knows the strain, and knows what it is, and, you're buying illegally for medical reasons, you've got a reasonable chance under those circumstances of knowing what you're actually getting.
Right.
Average, guy just wants to make some money by selling pot, who knows what you may have.
Right.
It may not even be in like Jesus. So it's far better to have a legal market than an illegal one.
Definitely. So as long as they don't go crazy with the taxes, because I feel like you said, some of the states are already, they got it maxed out, and you start throwing federal taxes on it, it could
And
turn.
quality control is crucial, particularly.
Yeah, definitely. What I do like the WAR Act does address that the SBA loans and services will be available to cannabis-related businesses, because we talked about some of the licensing fees, $50,000 for transport, $300,000 if you want to grow medicinal marijuana. That, and again, in Michigan, that's just the application fee. That doesn't guarantee you anything. Not back Rich Aunt Betty. We don't all have one. So that the SBA loans and services will be available for everyone. And then with expungement hopefully happening, people don't have to walk in there and check mark that yes, I'm a felon, or yes, I spent time in jail box. They can just be a normal citizen like the rest of us. So I thought that was a really good part. It does prohibit the denial of benefits and protections under immigration laws on the basis of a cannabis-related event, which I was trying to wrap my head around what that might be, and I didn't think it had to do with deportation, but maybe someone that's trying to become, like is here on a visa, that kind of thing, and they get caught with some pot. Does that immediately deport them, or does this make it so it didn't, or?
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer, I'm not government official.
Don't call me if you're trying to get deported.
If you're here legally to begin with, you should have the rights and laws, applicable to you as well.
Right, we have all those people in limbo that are here on a K-1 visa or a student visa that are trying to become citizens or whatever. And I'd hate to see bright individuals kicked out of our country for having a joint or a blunt on them or something. So that was good to see that they have addressed that. It does establish a process to expunge convictions and conduct sentencing reviews, hearings related to federal cannabis offenses.
You're right.
So who gets charged for federal cannabis?
Federal cannabis possession arrests are very rare.
Okay.
You can, it's up to, if you're growing 99 plants, that's about that message of the cases.
Oh, so it's not necessarily if you bring it into the country or something like that. But if my home grew 100 plants and I got busted, it'd be federal. Okay.
Federal production case. I remember when, there's, you'll almost always have a state logo.
Okay, because that's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does direct the Government Accountability Office to study the social impacts of the cannabis legalization. So again, they're doing the studies that need to be done to make sure that everybody's got PC5.
As they should.
Right. So that kind of sums up what the MORE Act is. Anything I forgot? Anything you want to
I got
add?
pretty well covered, I think. Again, you got this one, in the single mission tree, but I think that.
Do we think that will be addressed, or is that just something I'm not worried about?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I thought about that, and it's just going to depend on who ends up being the governor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And just like last week, I always like to tell you how you can help. Everybody's like, well, what can I do? What can I do? Back to the IGA.gov. Once again, you go on there, we went over it last week, click who's my legislature. You need to be calling, sending them a birthday card. Send them a get well, send them a best wishes card. That would get their attention. Oh, that was the best. Poor Neil here got kicked off, he's blocked by Holcomb, but that's all right, that's a goal, I would think to have. Right on follow, we have to get with our legislatures. Something else, now that COVID's kind of getting under control, we're trying to open up some more meet and greets. That's how I got involved in 911. I'm from Fort Wayne, for those of you who don't know, that's in the northeast corner, I'm actually north of Fort Wayne, the northeast corner of Indiana. And certain events happen through my close personal life that friends needed medicine that wasn't happening through pharmaceuticals. And I wanted to become involved. My closest event that I could find was an iNormal meeting in Muncie. About an hour and a half, hour 40 from my house, but I wanted to get involved. I've always taught my kids, if you want to make a difference, you have to do something. So I moved down there, and there was maybe 8 people there. It wasn't huge. I met Gary, our president of iNormal, and he said, "Oh, you're from Fort Wayne. We need help in Allen County. Will you be that person?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to be that person. Can't I just hold the sign?" But there was nobody out there. So I've done what I can. I've stepped up. I'm trying to get help in Allen County, DeKalb County, Noble County. Wells, if you're in Northeast Indiana, please, Allen County Cannabis Coalition, like our Facebook page, each county, iNormal kind of has each county page. Please reach out to me. I need all the help I can get up there. It's the second largest city in Indiana. We need to make some noise up there. I think it's the most conservative city in Indiana. We're very conservative up there, which is fine. But we need our legislatures up there to support as well. So we are opening the meet and greets. How to organize one. We can't go around and do all of this. We need you to say, hey, I'll do one, that's fine. So what do you need to do? Go to Indiana Normal's Facebook page. It's all written down on there. But I'm also going to tell you right now, the secure conference room, libraries are great. They're free. They're free to every citizen of the county. So it doesn't matter. That's why I went to the one in Muncie. It was an iNormal meeting in the Muncie Library. I don't know what county that's in. But you secure it. It's free. You call, you reserve it. Make sure it has some audio visual, because we will be helping with that. Let us know at least a month in advance, as far in advance as you can, what the date is, and that you do have that secured. We want you to invite all your local and state politicians from your area. It can be your mayor, it can be your representative, it can be your police chief, it can just be police officers. It can be anybody, because everybody needs to get the word out that they're support of this.
You know, we had a normal, did our first in-person event in over a year, this past weekend up at Carmel Pride. And we were talking to police officers up in Carmel, and they were very friendly too. They were somewhat knowledgeable. They, you know, were not hostile in the least bit. In fact, we got into a conversation one night. I gave her one of our copies of the marijuana safety, so why are we driving people to drink, which is a comparison of alcohol cannabis. And, you know, if you ask your average cop on the street, who are you going to have trouble with during an arrest, a pot smoker or a drunk? You know, the old joke, you get five drunks together, you'll have a fight, with five cannabis consumers together, you'll have a ban.
That's right. They may keep bugging about Doritos, but they're not going to be fighting. So once you have the conference room set up, and it doesn't have to be a library, it can be whatever. I'll make sure it has audio, video. Let us know about a month in advance. Invite all your local, state politicians in your area. Then we'll coordinate with you. We will make sure that communication is there. We'll help promote. We'll have a flyer file with our logo on it. We'll make the date and time. You just make copies. You can get it out to CBD stores, head shops. Although, once again, the head shops in Fort Wayne, they're not down with it. Whatever, that's another ballgame. Gas stations, just anywhere. You know, you can hand out the flyers. Communications at inormal.net if you have any questions. Again, that was communications at inormal.net. And we'll answer any questions you have. We're here for support, but we need all the help we can get on a local level.
Takes all.
It does.
It takes everybody in the state who wants cannabis legal. We can't do it by ourselves. We've been trying, and, you know, glacial pace again. We got to have you contacting your officials, being registered to vote, and voting for pro-cannabis candidates. Now, as we did before the 2020 election, we had a series of podcasts that, you know, we introduced you to a lot of the pro-cannabis candidates. You know, ask them yourself, put them on the spot, that's what they're there for. You don't have to be mean about it, just put them on the spot if you need to.
Say, what is your stance on campus? And they have one. I guarantee you they have one. And they'll say, hate it. They'll say, love it. They'll say, ooh, it's federally, I would love to, but. So they have a stance. And for you to know what it is very important. And that kind of wraps up some more acts and the SAFE Act. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you taking your time to watch us, to get educated so that you can share this education with others. Had a great time at Big Pride. Everybody looked like they were having a good time there. A couple events coming up right here at the First Church of Cannabis on July 10th. What's going to be going on?
That will be a celebration of the 6th year that the First Church of Cannabis has been in operation. There will be bands, Normal will be here. There'll be food trucks, and it's a $20 fee, but I hear it's going to be one hell of a pie fight.
Tell.
But always remember, freedom is normal.
Freedom is normal. Again, we appreciate your support. If you could give us all the likes you should, all the stars you could, retweet us, everything you can.
Share everything.
Thank you.